Hello, ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between and beyond. My name is Taylor, and welcome to Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2. So for full disclosure, I did request this game on a press website, so thank you very much to Sandbox Strategies for gifting me this code. I do appreciate it. This was not done by the developer or the publisher, this was done by a influencer relations manager, so thank you very much to them for gifting me this code. I will not let this affect my opinions or review of the game. Just want to fully disclose that yes, I did request a key and was gifted one, so I did not pay for this product. Thank you again to Sandbox Strategies for gifting me the code. Let's get on with the review. Now, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, as I'm sure you've heard, is kind of like a brawler game similar to the vein of Smash Bros, Brawlhalla, I believe it was, and Multiverses. Kind of closer to the Multiverses than anything, just given the properties here and kind of what they're trying to do with it. But it's a really interesting take on it, at least in my opinion. Now, the last time I played a Smash Brothers game, because I'm going to be using that as my point of reference, it's the last kind of game of this style that I played, was, oh god, 2018 maybe, at a friend's place on her Wii, where just, a group of us would get together and just grab 4 controllers and just have a blast. Now, I will say, obviously that was, oh god, 6 years ago now, so it's a fair bit of time for me to be away from the genre, and I have not jumped into either Brawlhalla, Multiverses, or the other kind of bigger names or players in the space since then. Though I do know the Smash community is still going pretty hard, in spite of Nintendo making the decisions Nintendo has made, which are not ones I agree with, but there's nothing I can do. I'm a small-time YouTuber and just some guy living in Korea. So this game was an interesting one to me. It obviously was a Smash Brothers style game. I guess I don't really want to call it a brawler because I don't know if that's the appropriate genre, but anyway, we'll call it a brawler for now, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Featuring Nickelodeon characters. So you actually, funny enough, start out as SpongeBob, which was just kind of unexpected. You blow these bubbles, you open up a time portal, or rather one opens up for you. You hear this voice calling to you after Patrick gets abducted, and it's like, hey, if you want to rescue your friend, you got to go through this portal. So SpongeBob does. He goes on to fight kind of whomever. It's really interesting. So the campaign is a roguelite or roguelike style in terms of, something like Slay the Spire or Peglin or so many other games that have adopted this map style where you have your starting point and then you have branching paths from that starting point which lead into more branching paths which can either have shops, upgrades, encounters, etc. So it was not the style I was expecting because obviously the more traditional campaign with a, again, Smash Brothers game, is you start out as a specific character, you unlock other specific characters, and then you kind of go along the story of rescuing these characters in particular. But with this game, you kind of have a choice, especially when you're faced with 3 different, brawler encounters, of who you want to rescue from being brainwashed. Because, yeah, it turns out they're being brainwashed. You find this out after you rescue Patrick. Then you fight Vlad Plasmius, which I was not expecting in the slightest. Now, I know, Danny Phantom, one of the best cartoons ever, in my opinion, and a great Nickelodeon property, was pretty heavily featured in this game, given that Ember and Danny are both on the front cover of the game. But I was not expecting Plasmius to be like the big bad villain out of this whole thing. And then he defeats you like that, like you're done. You are rescued by Clockwork, who sends you back in time and basically says, okay, you're going to do this as many times as you need to do it for us to defeat Plasmius. I was like, okay, so they're giving us a reason, like a story reason behind this being a roguelite, behind us being able to go back in time, retry all these fights, do all these things, which I thought was cool. And then, as I say, similar to Smash Brothers, you unlock heroes by defeating them. I didn't unlock too many. I unlocked Patrick, I unlocked Aang for Avatar, I think one more? I can't remember. And then as these characters, you go through a series of fights or encounters where you can find single run upgrades, which was kind of interesting. So like, for example, when I was SpongeBob, I got this really cool single run upgrade that gave my projectiles, so my bubbles, more damage, like made them explosive. And then I later got an upgrade that fired projectiles randomly every 12 seconds. So you can kind of spec out different builds through each run, which I was really not expecting. But it was a nice, interesting addition. Because of that, there are multiple currencies, ones that you will use during the run, and then ones that you will use between runs for the meta progression. So once you have finished a run, either by defeating the mini-boss and trying for Plasmius, the big bad, and either losing or potentially succeeding. I only played about an hour and a half or an hour and a bit, and I got a couple runs in. They're not the shortest runs in the world, which I do appreciate, but at the same time, I'm just bad at the game. But like I said, I have not played one of these in a long time. The control scheme was a little odd, but we'll get there. So anyway, you go through this run, then you either win or lose, most likely lose. When you do, you come back to the kind of hub world where you can swap out different characters, and you can even select different meta progression upgrades. Now, these you have to buy certain slots for, and then you have to decide which character's upgrades you want to slot into which upgrade for each character you want to slot into each section. That will really affect, who you're kind of progressing farther and who you're going to have an easier time playing. Now, I also jumped a little bit into the kind of just AI versus thing, because obviously I started out with a single-player campaign, given I have no friends, or at least I do have friends, but they're on, a 16-hour time difference, so it's a little hard for me to play with them. This was not bad, like it's what you would expect out of kind of the typical AI brawler. You find random enemies, you defeat them, or you die trying. Did not try my hand at the online versus because I would be absolutely horrible, like more terrible than I already am. I'm sure the footage on screen is hurting you guys right now, but that's me. I'm bad at video games. I've always known that. So I did not jump into the online to see how stable it was, especially with me being here in Korea. I would get a very different selection of players, and I don't know how popular it is in these parts, given that, I was an early 2000s kid, as I was born in 1996, growing up in Canada, like growing up in North America. So like these cartoons are my life. Like these cartoons are what I grew up with. These Teletoon, YTV, all this kind of stuff is awesome to see, and it definitely has more of a niche appeal to someone of my generation, of my upbringing, that wouldn't necessarily translate well to other areas like South Korea, or even maybe John from Noiseberry Games in the UK. I don't know how many of these cartoons he had as a kid, so I don't know what his opinions are going to be on it. I know he is coming with a video at some point because I had seen him get some achievements for it, so he's definitely going to be doing that soon. But it was interesting to see who they had selected so far. So the properties I had seen were like, Rugrats, Slash the Wild Thornberries, My Life as a Teenage Robot, Invader Zim, obviously Avatar The Last Airbender, SpongeBob, and I didn't see too many others. There were a couple like Hey Arnold, like that's a throwback. Like you gotta be deep in there to know Hey Arnold. But I'm also looking at the roster, or like the roster potential on Google right now, and it's a lot. Like even the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they had a couple animated series with those guys. For some reason, they only had 2 of the Turtles, which kind of confused me. I will say, if you enjoy, the 3D brawlers, if you enjoy this style of game, it's not a bad purchase. Realistically, I don't know how long the campaign is going to run you. It depends on how many times you want to run through it. It's going to be a little different every time, which is nice, but at the same time, I don't see it being the longest thing in the world. And this game is going to live and die by 2 things. 1, how well you're able to find like quality online matches, how the community takes to it, especially with it being kind of a Smash Brothers clone at a time when it's getting harder and harder to play Smash Brothers especially in official capacity. So I don't know if this game has a big like esports scene in the works, or how big Multiverse is going to be when it comes back, because I don't really understand how big it was to begin with. But that is going to be a huge factor in terms of how much the community takes to this game, and also how many more characters they add to the roster. For example, I didn't beat it, but I didn't see anyone from Fairly Odd Parents, which strikes me as like one of the core properties you want on there, or Blue's Clues, or maybe Drake and Josh. Oh, I forgot, Jimmy Neutron and them like in the crew are also there. Or you've got things like Doug. You've got things like CatDog. I would love to see CatDog in this game. You've got Back at the Barnyard, the animated series they did based on the movie. You've got things like Drake and Josh. You've got apparently a Star Trek series, which I was not aware of. Apparently came out in December of 2021. You've got Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide. You've got Drake and Josh, Zoe 101. You've got iCarly. You've got Victorious. You've got Sam and Cat. You've got so many properties that, yes, I understand you would need to get some actors' rights to have some of these characters in there. but I think it would appeal a lot more to people and be a much more competitive game if you had some of these characters in there. Even Monster High the movie. Now, obviously, I never watched Monster High, but I know there's a lot of characters in there that would, again, fit right into this scheme of cartoon brawler. You've got other, shows that I've never seen, like The Loud House, or Bubble Guppies, or, Rocket Power. I forgot about Rocket Power. You've even got Winx Club in here. Like, there's so many series, animated or otherwise, that you could include in this game, or that they can include, that I think would really flesh out the roster. Ren and Stimpy, I think they did have in there. Rocko's Modern Life, that would be an interesting one. Lazy Town, like, come on, Lazy Town? That better be in there, and I hope I just didn't see it, because I want it to exist. But, like, this game has potential because of the IP that Nickelodeon already has hold of, presuming that there's no legal complications with getting them into the game. Now, I don't know, I'm obviously not a lawyer, I don't have no way of looking at Nickelodeon's IP holdings, so I can't say for sure. But again, this game will live or die based on how well the community takes to it and how it is treated post-launch. Now, as far as I know, this game does retail for a full... Oh, apologies. This game does retail for $49.99 or the original equivalent, which I was not expecting, so it is not technically what I would consider full price game, which these days has been $89.99, which is kind of insane. So I think it's a great price, honestly, and you're a lot more likely to get that value for money out of a $50 game than you would out of a $90 game. So if you're into this sort of thing, I would absolutely recommend you play it. Especially if you want to scratch that itch. If you have access to Smash Bros, maybe just play Smash Bros, because Smash Bros has had the time to kind of refine itself, which is I do want to get into that real quick. It felt weird to me to play this game only because the controls were a little strange, like pressing Y to jump, A to attack, or X to attack. Like, I'm unfamiliar with it because of how long it's been for me. So I will absolutely take that into account with, expressing my opinions there. I do think this game could be maybe fleshed out a little more with animation cancels and, like, really allow for that hardcore player scene. But for a casual brawler that has fun characters that you'll probably recognize or that'll dredge up old memories like it has for me, honestly, I think it's a great pick. But we will see how this is supported post-launch and kind of what they do with it, especially in terms of the community. With all that being said, thank you, ladies, gentlemen, everyone in between and beyond, so much for watching and or listening. Let me know what you think about Multiverses down in the comments. If you've checked it out, if you're planning to check it out. I would say if you like this style of game, again, and you have friends who you can play with, or you don't mind playing online, go for it. If not, this might be kind of a wait for a sale, or kind of wait till you are more comfortable with the idea of purchasing it and you think it's the right time. With all that being said, thank you once more for being here. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye!